We're going to have a lot of fun tonight.
You're a racist!
Who the hell is I knew this was going to happen.
Trump's a racist!
What are you doing, Larry?
I heard if I yelled that, they'd give me $5,000.
As a businessman, I can fully respect that.
Well, Donald Trump last night taking time off the traditional campaign trail to host Saturday Night Live. And it's time now for our Sunday group. GOP strategist Karl Rove, Julie Pace, who covers the White House for the Associated Press, Kimberly Strassel from the Wall Street Journal, and Fox News political analyst Juan Williams. Karl, it's a heck of a way to run for president. Do you think it helps or hurts Trump?
It helped. Everybody got their moment last night. He got to be mocked by the Saturday Night Live crowd, and he got a chance to show that he was a good sport and could take it in stride. I think we ought to go back and blame this, however, all on Calvin Coolidge, who was, after all, the first president to appear on the White House lawn in a Indian headdress. And since then, presidents have felt compelled to go out and occasionally mock themselves, and now presidential candidates have gotten in the habit of mocking themselves. It was, however, I have to say, not very funny. I mean,
you're talking about Calvin Coolidge? Or?
No, I'm talking about last night. The opening skit was okay, mainly because Daryl Hannah did a more loose and realistic Donald Trump than Donald Trump did. But when the high moment of Donald Trump's appearance is Bernie Sanders, Larry David's impersonation of Bernie Sanders previous to that, and then appearing on stage to smartly get rid of the chance for him to be interrupted by a taunt and collecting $5,000. I understand this morning that the people who were putting up the money to get somebody to say that during the debate, during Trump's appearance, are actually going to pay Larry David $5,000.
You really are giving a review. First of all, I'm impressed that you even watched.
Why you ordered me to stay up until 1 o'clock in the morning?
I haven't stayed up and watched Saturday Night Live since about 1978. So, and that's actually, I think that's the last time it was funny. But anyway, Julie, some immigration groups, as Karl pointed out, protested outside. You can see quite sizable crowds. And I'm curious, at the White House, do they think that the controversy over Trump, about his comments about illegal immigrants, people in this country illegally, whether or not Trump is, let's say Trump isn't the nominee, do they think that's still going to hurt Republicans?
Yeah, they do. I mean, if you look at the language coming from the White House and also coming from the Clinton campaign, they're trying to make this about more than Trump. They're trying to say that other candidates who are running for the Republican nomination are saying things that are maybe not as flamboyant and bombastic as Trump is saying, but on a policy basis, they're actually quite similar. So you're seeing this attempt to kind of paint the entire Republican field as essentially Donald Trump on this particular issue.
Let's turn to Ben Carson, who is finding out that being in the lead or second in the polls comes with added scrutiny. There's been quite a controversy this week about his involvement with West Point. He had said repeatedly that he had received a full scholarship or been offered a full scholarship to West Point. There were indications that there was no, in fact, that he never even applied. Here's what he originally said, and here's how he responded to the media scrutiny.
I was offered a full scholarship to West Point, got to meet General Westmoreland, go to Congressional Medal of Honor dinners.
I see these thousands of people. They say, don't let the media get you down. Don't let them disturb you. Please continue to fight for us. See, they understand that this is a witch hunt.
Kim Carson says that this is going to hurt him. I mean, rather help him, not hurt him. And in fact, there are a number of conservatives who have rallied round him since the West Point story came up.
Yeah, I think it might. I mean, there's a difference between vetting and vendetta. And I think that a lot of times when it comes to the press and they are looking at conservative candidates, they get this treatment that just nobody else gets. And it's...
Well, I'm curious. Do you think that examining whether or not he was offered a scholarship to West Point, trying to find out the truth of that, is that a vendetta or vetting?
That's probably something worth looking at. But you look at, for instance, like the CNN story that was out where they go back 50 years and they're looking at all of his childhood friends and asking, well, is this the sort of person you remember 55 years ago, and somehow suggesting that this is an appropriate look at his sort of history and past and vetting. Look, I think the problem for Carson, though, and this does get to an issue, that the challenge he will have is he made a speech this week or wrote something about how he was the genuine outsider and that people are tired of experienced politicians. But the truth is that when you have an experienced politician, they do have a sort of fifth sense about what you can say and not. They know the media is coming after you, and so they know what those lanes are, and they're careful. They don't kind of engage in loose language about scholarships and things, because they know that if they give that opening, they're going to get hit. And he's dealt with a lot of this on his campaign, and it's going to be an enduring problem for him.
In fact, your paper, the Wall Street Journal, was involved in one of these things, and that involved a course that Carson said he had taken a psychology course at Yale when he was a student there, and that he was given an honesty experiment. All the students were, and he was the only one who passed. The Wall Street Journal found out, went back to the records when he was at Yale in the 60s. There was no such psychology course, and to the best of their ability, there was no such honesty experiment. Question for you, Juan. One, is that fair? Is that vetting or vendetta? And isn't this particularly a problem for Carson because his biography is such a huge part of his campaign?
I think that's right. You know, this reminds me of a lot of rappers, Chris. You know, they hype, they embellish, they exaggerate for the sake of the presentation, the biography in this case. So with the high school students, his classmates, and I think, Kimberly, people do remember what happens in high school very intensely. I think it turns out he's more Urkel than thug life. And that's the Ben Carson I know. I know the guy, and I'm just telling you, he's a wonderful guy, but I never thought of him as any kind of thug or attacking people, just doesn't see it. But the key point for me is that he remains an inspirational man. This is a poor black kid from Detroit who becomes a world-renowned neurosurgeon. It's an incredible story. Why he needed to elaborate, okay, so because, as you said, with the biography, his books end up in evangelical bookstores, homeschooling bookstores. That's how he's known to a lot of people, and they love him for that inspirational, bootstraps up, Jesus-touched life, his miracle life. So I would say that the difficulty is the trust factor. I don't know if you've noticed this, but when it comes to asking Americans, which of these candidates do you like most? Who do you trust most? Ben Carson is number one.
Oh, he's off the charts.
And this then potentially starts to hurt him in that regard, that people might have questions whether or not, listening to Kimberly this morning, whether or not it's this conservative evangelical crowd that views him as an icon and says the media is the devil, will take it seriously is another question.
We've got about a minute left in this segment. I want to talk about one other candidate, and that is Jeb Bush, Karl. Down dramatically in the polls and once again engaged in a reboot of his campaign. Here's a clip.
I strive each and every day. I pray each and every day to get better as a husband, as a father, as a leader. I know I can get better, and I believe that this country is going to get better.
Karl, how much trouble is Jeb Bush in?
Well, he's got a big challenge ahead, which is to demonstrate to the American people and to Republicans in particular that he is steady, that he's going to throw himself back in the fight, and that he's going to do things that will attract their support. He needs a good night on the debate night next week. But look, there come these, you know, Rudyard Kipling had that great poem, If. And we've come to an if moment in this campaign. If you can keep your head while all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, if you can trust yourself when all others doubt you. This is that kind of a moment for him in this campaign. He had a good week this week. He went and made a very good speech in Iowa, got good coverage on it, gave a speech in Tampa that was good, had 3 good days in New Hampshire, but it's overshadowed by the fact that the week before was very bad for him.
All right, we have to take a break here.